kind of newer bands coming up, but I haven't actually gotten into it as much as I probably should have or anything like that. They just don't seem to be making it as big, unfortunately, as the sort of the big ones that are constantly touring.
Well, Municipal Way Power Trip, that's the name of it. They kind of like, I think they came around a couple of years ago, and it seemed the way that people were going on, they were like the big thing at the time, and people were, it's going to be a resurgence of thrash metal. Now, I'd presume there's probably a lot of other bands out there, like the ones they would have done well, there would have been, or they must have been part of some scene. With it. And like, I mean, there is like, I suppose it's just a thing, there's a mixture of thrash metal in.
That's the thing, it doesn't seem to be pure thrash anymore. It's more sort of like death and all the rest of it.
Yeah, it would, like, thrash metal would have had a heavy influence in death metal, because I think thrash metal would have been a mixture of kind of like punk, rock, or hardcore, kind of like punk, and metal. It had that speed and aggression to it as well. Where they were trying to, and then kind of like, influence other things like Sabbath, who are still around as well. They do kind of a lot more kind of, I suppose. Oh no, that's fucking a different band I'm thinking of. But yeah, Municipal Waste as well, they're still around.
Exodus are still.
Exodus, a lot of them are still around. Yeah. Suicidal Tendencies are a lot of people don't realise.
And it's ridiculous the amount of crossover as well. Exodus was Kirk Hammett's old band. Suicidal Tendencies, Rob Trujillo was in. There's all these sort of like crossover,
but
sort
they were
of cross-pollination,
a lot of them were from the same area, and as well, it was a thing that you don't really get it as much anymore. But like all this stuff would have been new in the 80s, so no other one else was playing it. So a lot of these places would have had to play in the same venues, and they were friends with each other because they wouldn't listen to each other's music. God, forgot Anvil. Oh,
poor old Anvil.
They're a Canadian band. I think they're Canadian. Well, they live in Canada now anyway. There is a documentary out there if you're interested in looking at the
story of Anvil.
The story of Anvil. They could have been as big as Metallica, but for some reason they just
never got the break.
They were playing all the same venues. They were as big and as popular up to a certain point, and then all of a sudden they kept going, but people just, and the documentary follows them.
It's probably one of the most heartbreaking documentaries I've ever watched, because these guys, they were so good, they were so lovely, they were so awesome, and they just never got the breaks they deserved.
Yeah, they were just like, it just follows them. Like, one of them is a janitor, and they're still playing music and stuff, but they're not.
Yeah, it's just in like bars and clubs. And
they play at their own wedding. Yeah. Then kind of like, I won't ruin the documentary, but like, I mean, there's a happy ending to it. But yeah, I suppose that's
kills Dumbledore.
What?
No, you've ruined it for everybody.
Well, yeah, that'd be, I suppose, recommendations, kind of like a brief kind of like thing about thrash.
If you want to get into go back through thrash and kind of come up through all the years, get yourself up to speed with it.
Yes,
indeed.
Now on to the next sport. I suppose before we go, what we had planned to do, but we're kind of, I suppose, because we're still a new show and we're kind of like eking out, we had a plan for a while to talk about vinyl, or I suppose digital music versus physical medium. So yeah, with things, so thoughts, views. Because the thing is, well, we're from different generations. Like, we would have definitely grown up with kind of like vinyl physical and media. Tapes were very, very important to us. Whereas you're kind of like, suppose, CDs and...
Not really. For me, I was a little bit more kind of, not vinyl exactly, but I was more cassettes and stuff. Because I had like my Walkman and I loved it. I didn't actually get my very first CD until I was about 12.
I would have actually been similar enough. Like, I would have had a couple singles on on CD, but I wouldn't have had anything like portable. So I mainly would have listened to, like, my first music would have been through tapes, because I had, as Jen said, it wasn't a Walkman. It was like an off-brand cheap version of the Walkman, but I still had one of those. And we also like just had a bunch of blank tapes. So like, I just remembered like. I'd always like go to the radio and be recording my songs off that. Yeah. So that's my first kind of foray into it. Would have been using tapes and listening to music that way.
And trying not to get ads.
Breaking
the law, yeah.
Copyright infringement.
Breaking the law.
I wouldn't steal a pizza. I wouldn't download it, but I would record tapes.
Would you shit in a policeman's hat?
And then kill a policeman?
Yes.
I still have tons of tapes. I actually have. I think I showed you.
Yeah, you did.
The little the leather case that I have that belonged to my mum.
Oh god, yeah, you said those.
It's literally got like about 50 tapes in there. And then I was a bit late to the whole like CD collecting game. So even though my parents had like 2 towers of CDs, like mostly kind of classical, that's what they were into. But I had like a full case, just, you know, with the sleeves of CDs and CDs and CDs. And 2 years later, like, they were practically just gone. It was like, nobody collects CDs anymore. It was like, oh,
loser.
Well, actually, there was something.
Sorry, go on, Wayne.
There was something that just because I forget about it. It was just when you were talking about it there as well, kind of like still having tapes when you were kind of like young, because they, by all rights, they should have been gone for a long time, but I think they stayed around because, like what you were saying about, it's like fucking CD players to bring around portable ones were fucking awful. Yeah, they were horrible. They were massive.
You take a step and just skip.
So people, I think that's why tape stayed around for as long after they probably should have, because it was
even for the first, even when they were like, now we've released it with a jog proof. You're like, it's not really that good.
Proof.
Where are you going to put it? Like, really, it was like, at least with the Walkman for cassettes, it was a little bit more compact, I felt, right? Whereas my portable CD player, it was round, it was very kind of clunky. Same as what you said, anytime you went anywhere, it just unplug, or it would just, you know, skip, and you're kind of like, oh, it's pain.
As well with CDs, they were like so much harder to copy. You needed a computer, or else you need the DVD writers, which were really expensive, way more expensive than getting like a CD player.
Well, I mean, if your cassette player broke, you basically just blew on the heads, or you just kind of jiggled it around a bit. Your fucking CD player broke, and it's like, oh, you need to replace the laser, and it's £120. And you're like,
my tape is suddenly unwound. I have to use a really high tech tool
of a pencil.
Well, it's like tapes were so cheap, as because like I mean, I remember like I loved vinyl when I was young. I loved getting the bigger, but it was like tapes are so much cheaper. So it was like you get like 2, maybe 3 tapes for the price of vinyl. With it, and as well, a lot of bands, they seem to be releasing stuff more on tape than.
But I found then what happened for me then when tapes became a really big thing was the second-hand market for LPs got really super cheap. Do you remember down?
But a lot of stuff I was listening, you couldn't get second because people that were into metal, they just wouldn't get rid of the fucking things.
But occasionally you would come across some real bargains in like the bargain bins. You'd flick through and you get like a picture disc for like 30 pence or something like that, and we're like, cool, brilliant, I'm buying that. Some like really ridiculously rainbow coloured like fucking printed disc or something.
I remember. I think I can't remember if I went off and I got it again. But there was what I was like. Oh no, I was looking into buying, but it was like madly expensive. I got like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles soundtrack to the movie.
I had the Superman
on picture
soundtrack
disc, and it was like in a box set thing, and it was like really expensive. I think it was like 60 quid or something like that. It was like massively expensive. I wanted to get it kind of at the time. I got it like
for 60 quid.
I just remember like to the degree where it's like
when I was like 12 or 13.
When we went from from
Christmas
tapes to
DVD
to CD.
Oh yeah.
Like just in a car, just like the person go like a couple of times if you were in the passenger seat, it's like, oh, pull out the CD case and you know the big booklet of the CDs.
Flip book.
It's like, what do you want? I don't know. Just pull one in, and it's like, no. It's just like. It was just very cumbersome. And you can see like it was the same with tapes, but I just never really experienced tapes in a car that much. And you can see though, it's like it was like always kind of crying out for if only there was an easier way in cars.
Yeah,
you should have been around like for the old mobile LP players.
People walking around with LP players.
Yeah, strapped to their back. But there was mobile LP players. They're like you can. I think they came back when they started bringing back the when LPs started coming back and forth. They were like the novelty things, where it was like the suitcase. Remember those?
Yeah.
Did you ever see the little Volkswagen Bug thing? Like that's supposed to play a vinyl record. It's like it looks like a little car, and you place it on you place the needle on it, and it runs around the disc, and it has a little speaker on it. Whether that would ruin the fucking it's running around it, whether it ruined the vinyl is another thing now. But it's there, so it's a novelty kind of.
Well, that's the thing. I suppose coming to, because like where we're coming from it is, I suppose, kind of like all those different need, because like, I mean, the thing is, there was like some big, like LPs were still very, very, good for, like, say, audiophiles, and they always remain that, where it's like, oh, this is the best quality sound that you can get if you have an expensive fucking record player. If you have a shit record player, you're going to get shitty hissy sound, which most of us would have had, which I think ended up inadvertently creating this kind of like thing where people like the sound of kind of like a hiss, and it's the same now. A lot of people try emulating kind of like the tape hiss when they're trying to produce music, but like
it's the same with like some people get nostalgia for like that VHS effect as well, like where the tracking and the kind of that warbling, and you know, it's just what you grew up with. It kind of ingrains into your psyche and becomes something you really want to hear, and it kind of, having it makes it, and not having it kind of feels like there's something missing from a song. So if you're listening to like a song that you first heard on a vinyl record, on Spotify or whatnot, it's going to be like, that sounds wrong. There's something missing.
Well, there was a Cathedral song that Cathedral had an EP out, Soul Sacrifice EP, and I remember getting that when it came out first, but there's just like certain sound to it on the record, but it is that kind of and I remember when I got it on CD, it was like, it just doesn't. It doesn't sound. It doesn't have the same warmth to it at all. And I could never listen to that song. And then kind of like I got it there a while ago because I went looking it up, and like the original one is worth a fortune now. And I was like, I rang up Ballygunner, like where from, going, do you still have it? And they're like, oh no, I can't find it. I'm like, fucking bastards!
How dare you throw away all my memories?
But I managed to get it. They did a reissue of it. But I was listening to that thing, and you hear, and you're like, oh my, that's the song. That's the way it should sound. That's the one I remember. But like tape thing is, a lot of people kind of like wrongly assume that the quality of tapes is like shittier than LPs, and it's not. Like, a lot of stuff was recorded on and still recorded on tapes, like, you know, when people are making albums, because they can get like fantastic quality, but there's three different types. There's like type 1, which most people would have used or recorded on, degrade a lot quicker. And then type 2, it's oxide ones, which is better, and kind of like you can have different tracks, multi-tracks on it. And then 3, I can't remember what, it's chromium or something, but they're like super expensive.
That's what I was going to say. The trouble comes from it. It degrades over time with repetitive playing, and you get the strain on the tapes. And then every time you make a copy, the copy degrades further, and all the rest. That's the one advantage digital have. It's a perfect reproduction every time you reproduce it. There's no like loss. It's lossless format basically. Like,
but you look at the thing as well with digital, where I think like the obvious thing that I think with all it's, at least with the physical stuff, you have something that you can hold, you have something that's there.
That's why vinyl they took off in a big way, especially after kind of like MP3s, and then kind of streaming, because CDs obviously I think we're too recent, and tapes even, well, to a lesser degree tapes, but I think we're too recent, so I think people were still viewing these as an outdated medium, kind of like, oh, has been. And even though vinyl is older, I think because it was just a little bit older, that most people are kind of looking into it now or whatnot, we're starting to see it as vintage, and it kind of, it just changed the mindset slightly on people, and on top of it, you know, the fact that it is a clear reproduction, and it's also, if you like a band, it's like a nice showpiece to support a band, instead of just, oh look, here's my tower of CDs, and you can see this tiny little spine sticking out.
Well, so I think there still is like a certain kind of or people are still a bit like tapes, but it's starting to come back now. It's as a novelty thing, I think, more so.
I think one thing that probably spiked tape use was Guardians of the Galaxy, probably.
Oh, definitely, yeah. But like, even the whole thing as well, there's a few different musicians that I listen to that they do kind of like electronic music, and it's after getting really big with them, people using tapes as an actual musical instrument. So you have, like, I suppose one of the more famous ones would be Sandro Cortini, who does a lot of the electronic. He plays in 9 Inch Nails, and he's been using like old 4-track things. There's a guy called Heimbach. He's a German musician. He's a YouTube channel, and I think
using the tapes as instruments.
What Cortini does with it is that he records the music of a 4-track player. You have your 4 tracks which you can record separately or all at once, whatever you want to do it. And what he does is he plays it back through when they're playing live, and he manipulates the volumes on it and the master things with it, and he can slow down or speed up the tape play, so you can get a real it's people use it kind of like for drones or I suppose atmospheric things. Like I got a 4-track a while ago as well to record on because I want to put just for that sound as well, because a lot of studios still record on tape.
Of course they do.
If you record it and it lacks something, recording on digital really lacks something. The sound you can't get. You see